Sam, Leo here, VIPtv. We bump into one another quite regularly. A lot of the shows, you work with a lot of our fighters. Some big names, some names that probably will be big names in the future that no one knows about now. Perhaps one of the guys that helped you to get into this sport is a guy that's perhaps one fight away from fighting for the world title, Jack Capsule.
Yeah. So we went to school together, me and Jack. So I've known him and his brother a long time. And me and Jack probably lost touch after school. And then we got back in touch with each other again, just as he was probably 6, 7, 8 fights ago, something like that. And he just said to me, listen, he said, can you give us some tips on the nutrition? And at the time, I'd just set up Science to Health, so I was just getting going. And he wanted to pick my brains. By that point, I'd already been a nutritionist for probably 10, 12 years by that point, but not specific to boxing. And I said, it's not something I specialise in at the time. And you know, I wouldn't describe myself at that point as a massive boxing fan. I'd not spent much time in boxing as a kid. And he said, yeah, but he said, I just want to pick your brains and see what you can help me with, this, that and the other. And we met up and he was asking me a few things, and I said, what, do they not already do this in boxing already? And he said, no. And I immediately saw an opportunity there to help these boxers, you know, things around making weight, things that I didn't realise that I could help these guys with, and it wasn't already happening in the sport, which I was really surprised at. And then one thing went to another, and I thought, I really like this sport, I think I could help a lot of people here. And then it just grew from strength to strength from there. So
how many fighters are you working with at present? Because there's quite a few that I know that I've interviewed and so on, that all talking about you and
so
giving you high praise.
I've probably helped about 40 to 50 fighters help make weight now, but ones that I'm actually working with full time, 15.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to chat to two of them. I'm going to catch a kid who's at the beginning of his career. I think Andrew's coming up to his 6th or 7th fight.
Yeah.
But he's only been working with you for the last 2 fights, and the last fight was his first full camp with you on board. And I'm going to get the evidence from him. I'm going to speak to him.
Yeah. So like I said before fighting Fons, I'd struggle making 10 stone 4. I made 10-2 against Fons comfortably, carried the power, had plenty of energy. I could have done another 4 rounds, if not more. The energy I've had during training, throughout the camp, while cutting weight, and on the night of the fight as well, it's been a big improvement. So this fight we're doing now stone 12, so lightweight, which in the past I never believed that I'd make lightweight. It was always a hope, but I never actually believed that I could get down to that, just because I was killing myself making light welterweight. So,
and now that you believe that is the way that you're going to be able to go forward in your career?
Yeah, doing it the right way with Sam, I'm confident that I can do lightweight for as long as I want, really, and still have plenty of energy, and be quite big at that weight.
And you feel that's where you're going to win your titles?
Definitely, yeah.
What his take on it is, but my take on it, just by watching him, was quite a phenomenal change, because he always started fights really well, but faded a little bit towards the end because he struggled making the weight. And since you've been on board, he's actually gone the other way now. He's where he starts off at a good pace and finishes at an even better pace.
Yeah. So, yeah, with that, I remember you actually saying that to me when I first started working with him, and Andrew had said it himself. We highlighted that as one of his key goals, and his coach Damien, who took me on board, he highlighted that point as well. And I think one of the things that I see boxers regularly do is they prioritise making weight over the performance. As in, making weight comes first every time. But when you have that mindset, and you're striving for making weight all the time.
Well, if you don't make the weight, the fight doesn't happen.
True.
So, you know, it does come forward.
It should still be up there, but I don't think it should be the #1 priority.
Well, when Andrew came to you, and he's been fighting at sort of like super lightweight, welterweight, And we always felt like it should be a lightweight, and when you mentioned that to him, he just go, yeah, right. But now that's something that he's took on board and gone, yeah, right, I can do that.
Yeah.
What were the changes? Because I don't think he had such a bad diet when he came to you, but
No.
he wasn't a nice player, he wasn't a great person to be around in those final couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Now that seems to have changed to him, and he's coming to weigh in on the day with a smile on his face.
Because he focuses on his health and performance and puts them first, and the making weight side of it, it's winning in performance that comes first, and then we structure the nutrition around that, and it automatically looks after everything for him.
And does your diet, I've got a set of questions, but I'll just go off this one here. As a camp progresses, will the diet change?
Yes. So it goes through 3 different phases that I do with the boxers. So the first phase will be about whatever the walk around weight is once they start camp. In that phase is dedicated on focusing on performance whilst bringing the weight down moderately if they need to, which is their body fat.
Yeah.
So at that point, no sweatsuits, because we don't want to be losing sweat, we don't want to be losing body water. At that point, we want to be losing body fat. And it needs to be structured around that, so they can start to bring that weight down, so they can get to touching distance 1 week out. But whilst this is the real key bit, but whilst allowing them to still maintain good health and perform optimally.
Do you go by the principles of being well hydrated throughout the whole of the camp?
Through the whole of the camp, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Manipulation to water. A lot of boxers do it. I do see that, and that's often because of it's decades of kind of information that's been passed down, and there's a lot of myths in boxing surrounding nutrition, lots, and
even now, well, I mean, there's a lot more like yourself. There's a lot of people out there who have a lot more knowledge about this and getting involved in sport and working with people. But even so, there's still a lot of myths, because it's just been passed down from old coach from the 50s through to the coaches in the 60s to the 70s, and not changed much.
No, not at all, and it's a big challenge as well, because you're walking into boxing gyms. It's not something that comes natural to me to be in that environment and from being a kid, like it has with some of the boxers. And sometimes you've really got to get the buy-in from these guys in terms of believing in what you do.
Well, when you start working with a fighter, obviously you have to work with the coach, don't you? I presume he's the guy you go to find out what they're doing, what training they're doing, and then you work with the trainer and the fighter to find out what's best for them.
That is the best approach. Where possible, where you can work with the coach, that is and the athlete, that's the best approach.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm not a boxing coach,
so
I get to find out about in terms of working with the boxer and the boxing coach to find out what the best weight is for this boxer to fight at. And that isn't always as simple as the lowest weight you can go is always the best approach. Well,
do you find that there's fighters that fight at the wrong weight, whether it's too light or too heavy? I mean, let's go on one guy here. I think it was last weekend, Scott Fitzgerald fought a kid called Anthony Fowler, and a lot of people were saying Fowler didn't look great at the weigh-in, and maybe it showed in his performance a little bit. Would you, looking at that, did you see that fight? Because Scott's from around this area, isn't
he? I did see that fight, and it's very hard to tell unless you know the ins and outs of that fighter, their background, their preferences, and a lot of people that I've worked with, people have said, I didn't think that they'd be fighting at that weight, and they've actually gone to excel in their performance at that weight. And it isn't always as simple as fight at the lowest weight you can, because you're going to be the most competitive. It's very individual because each fighter responds differently.
And how do you work that out then? How do you find what's the ideal weight for someone? Because there's certain people that look very smooth even though they're in great shape, and there's people that look like they're in great shape but actually probably not, even though they look great, they're perhaps not the best weight for them.
Yeah, so with that we literally will, I'll talk to the coach, I'll talk to the boxer, and it's amazing how what might look good on paper, as in, yeah, you can make that weight, it could literally destroy a boxer. In some cases, it's better to go up a weight for some boxers, because how they respond to it. They might get to a certain point in that nutrition where the weight gets to a certain point that their mood goes, their performance goes, their recovery goes, their strength goes, they get fatigued, they're just not there, and they're not reaching the potential.
So
just because they can,
I presume then it must be a little bit trial and error then, to a certain degree. I know there's science behind everything that you do,
yeah,
but that science must be adjusted and tweaked to each specific fighter.
Absolutely. You and it is a case of applying something, reviewing it and tweaking, and getting the feedback from the boxer, from the coach, because the coach can tell you so much about understanding that boxer, what weight they feel that they should fight at, how they respond to the different things, and also what you're seeing with the data that we get from the fighters. We can see what's happening.
Well, you've worked with Jack Capsule now, for, as you said, for 6 or 7 fights. I presume that's long enough for you to find out what the perfect weight for him and help him that. How much difference do you feel you've made with him?
So with Jack specifically,
because I'm only asking him.
This segues into this question nicely, because with Jack, he'll walk around, not massively far away from that weight, but he would be at his limit at super lightweight. Whereas though you could put another boxer around a similar weight to what Jack walks around at and get him to make super lightweight, and they wouldn't be able to do it because it would be too demanding on the body.
Yeah.
But Jack can do that weight, but he recovers so well and fights so well at that weight, which is why he's fighting for the world title.
This is another thing as well. You're working with lots of different boxers at different stages of their career. Now Jack is a day before weigh-in, so obviously that's totally different to a guy who weighs in on the day, and you have to tweak everything to suit that. So what would you expect someone like Jack to come in at beginning of fight week? How much extra would you want him to be over his 10 stone limit?
So we have a range with different fighters, which is more of an art than a science, because as I've said, it's very individual to each boxer, but generally speaking, 1 week out, if it's a day before weigh-in, I try to get fighters between 6 and 10% away from the weight that they're going to make for the weigh-in.
Right, so
10 would be that absolute max, ideally 8% away.
So that would be, with someone like Jack, you'd look at about 10 to 12 pound then, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8% would be about 10 to 12 pound. Now, what about a guy such as Andrew Fleming, who's on the day weigh-ins?
Yeah.
How would you expect him, because he's never going to make fight weight yet.
Yeah.
So if he does want to compete at lightweight, which is what we're hoping for, he's probably going to have to be weighing in just close to 10 stone, either just a touch under or a touch over. If he's going to be coming in, say 10 stone for on the day weigh-in, what would you like him to be at beginning of fight week?
You need to be much closer, because you've got less time to recover. It's a whole different ball game with the same day weigh-ins, and you can't, with the logistics for when they're actually going to fight, you're up against all the challenges, because if they're also the first fight of the night, the time that they've got between weigh-in and fight is very limited. So the whole strategy changes altogether. 1 week out for those guys, you're definitely not going to be wanting to go over 5% away 1 week out.
Right. So this can be amazing. When you hear fighters say, like it wasn't perfect because, they've weighed in on the day, and then suddenly they found out because they didn't know perhaps they were floating, and suddenly they put on maybe 2.5 hours after making weight, and they've just stuffed a load of food and water down their neck.
Yeah.
How do you go about that? Is there a way of doing it? Do you have to take fluid on first? Do you have to do, how do you go about refueling?
It all comes, for me, into fruition with the approaching weeks to the fight, in that you can bring the body fat down, but then what you can't do is deplete them or restrict certain things that you would, knowing you'd have 24 hours to recover. You wouldn't do that to anywhere near the level you would for a same day weigh-in. So if you've done the cut right, they won't be depleted by the time that they weigh in, which means that you'll be topping the tank up rather than fully refueling it, if that makes sense.
Right.
So then when they do come to the fight, if they're not first out, then you've got a bit longer as well to recover. But if they are first out, then there's still the kind of recovery shake and recovery meals that we give between the weigh-in and the fight is still more than enough to have them ready.
And I suppose when we're talking at that level, when they are, you know, floated, their opponent isn't. It should be on a slightly lower level than them. So realistically, it shouldn't make too much difference. And
they feel a benefit when they go to the day before weigh-in usually.
Well, they all look forward to it, but there's that problem when it's the first time they make that day before weigh-in. How many fighters screw it up? I mean, look, let's put it. What about was Ashley Payton on one of our shows, one of Damien's fighters? He refueled. He had a day before weigh-in when he was fighting for a title, and refueled, and everything went wrong. And I think his kidneys weren't.
I don't know the ins and outs of it. I've heard about it, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. But it's not rare to hear things like that within boxing, MMA. You know, if it's not weight cutting that is dangerous per se, it's how it's done. And sometimes, you know, I've seen disastrous weight cuts worldwide that happen where either boxers are given like poor information, poor advice, or sometimes you think, oh, how hard can it be? I'll have a bash myself and see how I can go. And sometimes, you know, without understanding what the goal is in order to get to that weight, that, you know, the outcomes can be catastrophic. You know, dehydration to the point that you get kidney failure. These are things that are life-threatening. The other worry that you've got with boxing that you have to be so careful of, especially with weight cuts, is because, especially in the final week, we're not looking to be dropping body fat there. We're looking to be kind of dropping carb stores and slightly, not a lot, but slightly dehydrating. But sometimes when either boxers come into 1 week out too heavy, they've not looked after the organisation in the weeks leading up to the fight, they rely on these things much more, they end up with no fluid around the brain, they've not had a chance to recover, and then they're getting in that ring with really dehydrated, they've got no cushioning around the brain, and then they're taking them hits, which is where nutrition really can be a game changer.
Because to rehydrate it properly, you need 24 hours, and so on the day weigh-ins, if you have done it the wrong way, then you know, it can cause you major issues. But hopefully those tend to not happen too often, because you tend to be fighting shorter rounds on the day weigh-ins.
But even things people might not, obviously people will know that there's been issues if someone you know, collapses in the ring or they're diagnosed with an issue. But also, if they are taking them hits whilst dehydrated, what are the long-term effects if these things have not been looked after properly?
Yeah, scary subject at times, isn't it?
Very, yeah, very.
But the people that you're working with now, how often do you have to work with them during camp? Do you see them weekly? Do you see them monthly? Is it, you know, a daily thing? How does it work? Or does that get more frequently as you get closer to fight night?
We literally support them all the way through. So we work, the science to health is like all online. So whether a boxer lives down the road from me, or whether they're, you know, kind of other side of the world.
Well, hang on, let's just go. You actually work with everyone, not just fighters.
Yeah, no,
you have been working with
specifically
helping a lot of our fighters, and that's why we've come down here. But you actually work with people across the board. Some are athletes, some are not, some just keep fitters, some just want to lose weight, and you work with them. If someone signs up with you to do a course, how long will that course be, and what does that course entail?
So we build it all around them, so it depends on their goal, but we work with them all online. They have access to an app through the phone, so all their personalised targets and everything are put on there. We're able to monitor their lifestyle and everything, so, you know, if they're giving us information about their health, like how they've been that day, their mood, weigh-ins, all that information, it syncs straight to the app, and then me as the coach, I can monitor it, give them feedback on it, and no matter where they are in the world, they're getting that monitored and getting feedback, so they can keep pushing forward. Whenever they need me, they can email me, message me. And then what we do have is scheduled regular kind of meetings or Skype calls every couple of weeks. So they're guided all the way through.
Yeah, no, it's a science that has been brought into boxing, and like I say, it's like black magic to a lot of people. Ooh, don't know too much about it, but I've been speaking with yourself and a few other people, and it's intriguing, and the performance difference that it's making with the fighters is quite phenomenal.
Yeah, I think it's one of the things I've certainly found, especially when I was, I left uni probably 8 or 9 years ago. And when you leave uni, you're full of science, and you want to show people what you've learned and stuff like that. But when it comes to working with people, I think that when you go working in different sports, it's very easy to blind people with science, to the point that it's like, yeah, you're saying that, but how does that work in practice? And I think that what I try my best to do is to kind of go to all this science and transfer it in a way that works in practice, so people can apply it and get the best results from it. Because it's so easy. I know Damian Jones once said to me, I like the way that you've come in and spoke to these boxers and you've not blinded them with science. Yeah. They've asked you questions and you've answered it in a practical way that they can not only kind of grasp, but also put in a way that they can practically apply it.
Have you had any conversations with Jamie Moore? Because Jamie, obviously he's coach to Jack Cattrall, and one of his major issues during his career was making weight, because he's a huge middleweight. Yeah. And I remember listening to him talk once with another fighter, and they were just talking about making weight, and he said, how many times do you feel you made weight correctly? And he probably said maybe half a dozen times. In his 38 fights or whatever it was that he had. Yeah,
I remember when Jack was fighting on a same day weigh-in at the Guildhall at Preston, and we were in the car with Jamie driving down to the weigh-in, and I was asking Jamie about his weigh-ins, and he'd say how drastic the weight could be, but they were doing. He said back then that's all they knew. And he said now in hindsight that he knows that he'd have probably done it differently, but he said that the sport is 20 years behind with the science, and it needs to come in, because obviously, like you said before, a lot of information gets passed down. Boxing coaches have got enough on the plate with the boxing coaching element, so they can concentrate on that bit that they're so good at. The nutrition can be, whilst it's so important to boxers, it often, how do we know how do the boxing coaches know whether they're doing it right, and do they have to take on all that responsibility as well as the boxing coaching? Do they also need to be the nutritionist, the physio, and how do they know that all that is right?
Well, as you're saying, it's proven in performances, isn't it? And the few performances, the young kid that you just started with Aaron Hayden, just made his debut, and an absolutely fantastic debut. And like I say, he told me he just started working with you. Just mention a couple of names now you've been working with.
Jack Cattrall, Sam Eggington, Aaron Hayden, Andrew, Adam Ridge. There's loads, and I'm really grateful that I never even expected it to go this way in boxing. And I just fell in love with the sport once I started to work in it.
Because you're a bit of an athlete yourself. You do all the triathlons, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't take part in boxing, but from what I've experienced in the sport and the people that I've met and learned from and working with boxing.
Well, you're going for punishment, because I met you doing the steps with Jack and all the boys and Carl Frampton, which is something that even they dread doing, and you went and did it purely for fun.
Well, I think sometimes when I'm working with the boxers, I think that whilst I'm not going to take up boxing myself, I think it's important not to just kind of not understand it from their point of view. Jack's invited me down to sessions to come and watch him, and I'll take them those opportunities every time. I know he is going to kind of teach me some boxing drills as well. I'm going to go down one day, but I like to kind of put myself in some of the windows of challenge that they do. That's why I did that session that day. Yeah. And
what a group of people to do it with.
Yeah.
Fortunate, Martin Murray, Carl Frampton, Jack Cattrall. These are gods in boxing.
And that session was definitely an eye opener. That was brutal. But it makes me understand it more, and also kind of put myself through some of the windows of challenge they're doing, how can I expect kind of them to respect and take on board the things that I'm saying if I'm not putting myself in some of the same windows of challenge myself?
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Just don't look at me because I'm in terrible shape. So how can people get in touch with you then? We've got this behind Science. This is your company, Science Trails.
The website's the best, sciencetohealth.com. And then
I'll get that running as we're talking now. That'll be running underneath us. And
then just arrange a chat, talk through the goals, and then go from there. How we can help you. Yeah, I mean, with the boxing especially, it's going really well, and you know I'm really enjoying it, and hopefully, you know, Jack will have this world title fight later this year. It's been amazing to work with him for those
fights. It'd be nice to know that you played your little part in it.
Yeah, and also all the other boxers that I'm working with, and I'm just really glad.
Well, that's going to give them great confidence. If you've worked with a guy and you came on board, not when he was a world champion, but helped him to get to that stage, that's going to benefit your credentials, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that if in any way that I can, you know, help the sport, you know, there's loads of boxers that I speak to on a daily basis where they just inbox me for some tips and help, and I'm happy to do that, because if it means that boxers can truly, you know, meet their potential, because sometimes the way that they go about the nutrition is holding them back, because they're not recovering properly, they're not in the performance as they should be, they're not hitting the potential of what they're capable of because of the nutrition.
I don't think people understand. They all think it's glamorous, but this boxing life, it's very, very underpaid. And it's only a few people that make good money out of it, and early on in their career they need every help that they can get. So.
Yeah, and I love helping them for that reason. And if that benefits them so they can hit their potential, then that's only going to be a good thing.
Right, Sam, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate.
Thank you very much.
Take care, kiddo.
Cheers.
See you. Bye.
Been working with Sam for about 12 months. We've done 4 fights together, I think. 3 times we've made the 10 stone limit, but it's just the knowledge. I think, like everything, boxing's moving with the times now. It's a lot more strength condition, sports science involved in it, and Sam's certainly clued up on it. With for me, one of the main things is the weight cut. I can lose the weight as the weeks go on before the fight, but it's that initial weight cut where it's having the knowledge and knowing what right foods, how much water to drink, and doing it sensibly so you can perform at your best.
And obviously that's important for you now, because these next few fights, because arguably we could say you're perhaps maybe 1 or 2 fights away from fighting for every fighter's dream, which is a world title.
Most definitely, yeah. I've got to nail all the boxes every fight now, from the stuff in the gym to the stuff outside the gym, and that's a massive part. It's alright working for 10-12 weeks in the gym, doing the boxing, the strength work, but if you're not fueling the sessions correctly and recovering correctly, then you kind of like backtracking. Where every session now is fueled correctly, come closer to fight night, everything's done accordingly, and then once I've weighed in, I can recover and perform at my best.
And you're one of the main reasons. He was already you know, a sports nutritionist, but you're one of the main reasons why he's actually involved with a lot of boxers now, is because you asked him to find out, to help you.
Definitely, I don't believe it's that. I believe word of mouth, but Sam's really good at what he does. He's studied and worked hard and created a wonderful business, so long may it continue. But just results speak for themselves. I know a number of boxers now that he's working with, and a lot of other athletes in different sports, and he's really making an impact with them, so I'm happy.
Well, like I say, if you become a world champion, massive tick in his box for him.
Definitely, it's coming this year. I believe I'll get my shot at that world title, and together as a team, it's not just I climb through the ropes on my own, but leading up to that, there's a number of people involved, and Sam's one of them, so credit where credit's due.
Jack, thanks a lot, mate.
Cheers, Lee.
For all boxing info, news and latest interviews, amateur and pro, across the north, click and subscribe. VIP Boxing Promotions. Also Twitter, Instagram and Facebook.